I'm a huge Caps fan. I always have been. And to be there at that game with my teammates and for us to bring, our gold medals to there and share it with everyone in this area was really, really special for me. And just the support, and it's been tremendous from everyone in this area, and you could feel that there at that game.
Now, here's Sports on the Hill podcast.
That's right. It's Monday night. CP3 live in the lab. Sports on the Hill podcast, episode 183. True Radio Network. We back. We here. It's what we do. DC Sports Water Politics. It's not just a catchphrase. It's not just a motto. It's what we do. We coming to you live tonight. We got the Nhl Trade Deadline just going down a couple of hours ago. Caps made a couple of more moves. We got Capitals talk. We got Wizards talk. We got XFL talk with the DC Defenders who got embarrassed yesterday by LA. And I'm definitely going to break that down in the second hour, talking about the XFL, because they're putting out a pretty good product. I must say the first 3 weeks of the season has been very entertaining. Besides that upset yesterday, 39-9, the Defenders got, we'll talk about that in the second hour. But we're definitely going to talk about all the DC sports in general. And we're going to talk about the Wilder Fury 2 fight that ended totally unexpected to me, because I predicted Wilder round 7 and it ended up being Fury round 7. So we're going to have Paul, the boxing guy, on at 8:30, around 8:15, 8:30, talk boxing and recap that fight, because I saw bits and pieces. He sent me the feed. I haven't had a chance to check out the whole thing, but from my understanding, Wilder pretty much got his ass whipped. So we're definitely going to break that down. But before we go any further, I always have to thank you, the fans, the listeners, the viewers, the contributors, everybody for making Sports on the Hill podcast what it is, because without you, it would not be possible. Make sure you go check out the website, SportsOTHP.com. Robbie does a great job keeping all the stuff updated, shows, archive, blogs. He has everything up there. Go check it out. Great content, some of the best content you're going to get in DC sports media, in any sports media, because that's just what we do. Because what else will we do? We like those other guys that just talk BS and have clickbait articles for you to, click on and get upset or get pissed off because they talking some dumbness. We don't do that here. We only bring facts to the table, and that's what we do. Let's see if we got Robbie on the line already. I got a lot going on over here, so y'all bear with me, because
I am here.
Oh, boom, perfect. Yeah, Robbie, perfect timing, man. That's why I love you, brother. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing well. I was just sharing the post out to a couple of groups. I'll switch the screen to bring my face in on here on the live feed. I got a cat who's stolen my seat, so we're having a little battle over here. But other than that, I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, Neville
stood up to the same trick, huh, man?
Yeah, Neville the Devil. He's like, well, I made a nice, comfy spot. I'm like, yeah, but that's also where I have all my stuff. So, he'll move. It's been a good week. I'm happy we beat the Penguins. It obviously makes our job a lot easier, especially considering how some of these first couple of games went on this week. But overall, I thought I was happy about that. I want to give a quick little shout out at the top of my show to the McLean School Mustangs, where I've worked for the last 10 years, and was an alumni. I went there for 10 years. We got a big time PVAC championship this past weekend. The boys and the girls both made the finals. The girls fell just short to Sandy Spring Friends School by 5 points, but the boys were able to pull it out and win a 70-63 basketball game. A bunch of the people on the round table were actually there with me. Mike went to that school, and so did Arun. Arun actually went to both schools, so he rooted for the girls in the girls game and the boys won. So he was 2-0. We were 1-1, but it was a really fun time. Tim was there as well, so just a big shout out to them. They've been working for 4 years to get to this milestone, to the promised land, and they beat the only team that beat them all season. They got revenge, and it was a great story. It was actually in the Washington Post and all over a bunch of different media sites. So I just thought I'd give them a quick little shout out here at the top of the show. I'm very proud of them and happy as both an alumni and a communications guy. So So things are going pretty well. I know we lost a bunch of games on Saturday, but I'm happy we won both the Penguins game and that game this weekend. If I only got 2 wins, those are the 2 I definitely wanted.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to talk about those and break down the good, the bad, and the ugly. They win 1, 2, and 1. 1, 2, and 1. So, it could have been better, a lot better. But Ovi got a 700th, and we're definitely going to talk about that and how we feel, how I felt, why, the team isn't in as much danger as everyone has already, predicted and all this other stuff. But before we go on, I forgot to, at the top of the show, I got to give a shout out to my niece. It's about that time. I got my legal registered weapon because she just turned 15. So yeah, it's about that time. I want to wish her a happy birthday, Caitlin. Love you. And yeah, any dudes come around, they're gonna have to deal with Unc. So yeah, Rob, you lucky you got a son. You ain't got to worry about these problems. But as an uncle, yeah, now I got to start worrying about stuff, man.
That sounds about right. Yeah, I just like to meet you after a bad date with her, So that would be a bad time for everybody. But good luck with that. And congratulations, happy birthday. And so that's pretty awesome. Well, it was a big week for us, and I guess we can segue in and bring Anna Knox in if you don't have any other shout outs. All right, cool. I see that you already have brought her in. So, Anna, how are you doing tonight?
Yeah, we got to talk about this one.
Yeah.
How you doing, Anna? Yeah, you had a good week after this upside down Capitals week, something we're not used to, a losing week from this team.
Yeah, it definitely was. It was a rough week. I thought, God, and of course, I've fallen into the social media thing too, where I'm like, are we in a slump? Are we this? And I thought, nope, I'm not going to let it contaminate me. I know this team is going to come back. They're going to do what they need to do. It happens. Let's just roll with it. And yesterday was just, cherry on the Sunday, beating the Penguins. If it had to be any game out of the 4, although I don't know, Knights could have been there a close second. It was awesome, and I felt like that was the strongest game that they had, and that they looked truly like the Capitals players that we know and love. But yeah, in the beginning, I'll have to say it was this time last week was a little rough getting going.
Yeah, just real quickly, I have to say that it might be the best game that they've had all season, not only the week. I really thought that they actually put a full 60 minutes.
Oh, wow.
I know that we'll get into it in a little bit, but I thought that that was a tough game, and the Penguins really wanted it. I think both teams it was kind of a playoff atmosphere, what I was going to expect from the previous time when the two teams played, where I thought the Caps kind of mailed it in for the first 20, or maybe even more. We'll definitely break that one down. But let's start off with that Golden Knights game because that one was definitely a bummer because I thought that we had a good opportunity. We actually talked about that game all during the podcast, so it's one of the very few times where a game finished because it was a 6 o'clock game. Anna, break down the scoring real quick if people didn't get to check out the show last week.
Alrighty, so last Monday we watched the Caps play the Golden Knights in Vegas. And the first 2 periods were all Vegas, making it 3-0 going into the third. And then number 77, TJ Oshie, scored 1 of 2 goals. The first one being at 8:47, assisted by Orlov and Brana. And the second was a power play goal. Slater, assisted by Brana and Carlson. But unfortunately, and I think everyone sort of agreed to this, it was a little too late. The Caps fall 3-2. Of course, it's frustrating because it's Vegas and there's so many jerks on that team. But looking at the stats, the thing that stood out the most was how about that face-off? Good Lord, we were 37.5%. That's just unacceptable. So they kind of, unfortunately, went into the game. They gave what they could. I think they thought they could rally in the third. Oshie certainly did. I don't know what happened in the first 40 minutes, but this was definitely not a way I wanted to see the Capitals kick off, the first of 4 games for the week.
For sure. Carol, what were some of your thoughts on this matchup?
As you mentioned, it wasn't a full 60 minutes. The team, I think it was more focused on trying to hurry up and get the OV 700 all the way with most of this week, because we remember when he hit 500 and 600, it happened like the next game after he got 599 or 499. So I think they've been trying to force it to get him the puck, to try to get him to score, but Vegas came out ready to play. And when you have a team mentality against a team that's trying to basically, get something accomplished for an individual goal or whatever, in my opinion, it's always going to go in the team's favor. But, it was a hard-fought game. It wasn't really a ugly game. It just, with the score 3-2, it definitely wasn't as close as the score made it appear, because Vegas did pretty much control the pace of the game for most of the game. But, when you lose the face-off 35-21, you really don't set yourself up for success at all. So, Hopi, he played well. I'm not going to put it on him, because he only gave up 3 goals on 29 shots attempted. But, I just think that with OV 700, I think that's what kind of deterred some of this week. And when he finally got it, when we talk about the game after, I think we see what's going to happen going forward. What do you think, Robbie?
Yeah, I definitely agree. It was one of those games where we talked about where they kind of gave it away early and they tried to fight back into it. And I was saying actually on last week's show that we can't just keep doing that. Like, yes, we are the best comeback team, but at the same time, you can't. It's not going to work every night. Like, you got to play from the lead if you want to win most games. And I think you're right. I think they were too stuck on 700. Just focus maybe 1 goal a game. Which is sort of the approach that they took forward. But I thought they played a really great third period. And once again, if they played like they did in the third the whole game, they probably win that game. So at least that kind of gave them a little bit of carryover. What I thought they would take well into this Montreal game. The Montreal game was a bit more surprising. So let's just get into that one real quick.
Alrighty, so Thursday the Caps welcomed Montreal. The captain scores his 41st of the season at 7:29, assisted by Backstrom. And then Montreal ties it up at 17:43 going into the second. Lars Eller scores his 15th, assisted by Hagelin and Tonic. And then here we go with Montreal tying it back up again, closing out the second. Unfortunately, 30 seconds into the third period, Montreal takes the lead. But then we have Tommy Wilson tying it up at 19:39, assisted by Kuzi and Backstrom. Go into the dreaded overtime. It ended quickly, and the Caps fall the Canadiens. And that was it. It was, although the face-off percentage was better, minimal penalties, I agree, Robbie. I was super surprised by this game. I really thought that this was, I never want to say it's a given, but of all the games that they were going to play, I thought between them and New Jersey, I was like, yeah, we really should just, we should be good and having W's, and we didn't. So who knows what happened? Right.
Real quickly, my thoughts. Well, going into the third, I thought it was good that it was 2-2. I thought that we hadn't really pushed the play as much as I would like to. I thought Ovi would have been playing well. He was only 1 goal away. I thought, because he got that first one, 41, which got him to 99, with an assist by Nicholas Backstrom. And I kind of thought they would come out on fire in the third and get one. I thought that there was some momentum, obviously, that they got by scoring right after our goal in the second, and they definitely had some carryover. I mean, 30 seconds in, they got that goal, but when Tom Wilson gets that that goal with an assist by Kuzi and Backstrom at 19:39, and once again, 6-on-5, we get another goal, which amazes me every time, because in previous years we were terrible at that. But this year we've been pretty good at it. I was like, oh man, this kind of momentum, Ovi can win it right here with 700 in overtime. Like, let me get my post-game report already. Like, I was all excited. I was like, this is, screw Montreal. They can't deal with it, especially now that the momentum has slid so heavily the Caps' way. I was like, there's no way that they're going to do it. And sure enough, like less than a minute later, they shut me up. And they're like, oh, yeah, watch this. Like, one shot, boom, and we're done. And I was like, And I know I was talking to Carol at the moment, but I was kind of dumbfounded. Carol, what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I was actually at work trying to watch this game off and on. I saw they went down early. I saw Ovia got his $6.99, so I was happy about that. And I saw the Wilson goal from 6-on-5, and like you were talking about, normally they haven't been that good at it. But I mean, it's kind of baffling that they are so successful at it because they have to get to that point to do 6-on-5. But I think it goes to teams are playing them so aggressive now, taking away time and space because they know how skilled they are, and they're not giving them time or not giving them space. They know where Ovi's going to be at in the Ovi office. So I like the way I've seen him on the right wing sometimes. Like he scored his 700th on the right wing, which we rarely see. But you have to start switching things up, and I'm thinking that's going to be a good sign going forward. They're going to have to start doing things different because they've been doing things the same way for so long and been so successful at it that eventually it's going to catch up. And that's the thing that I think fans don't realize, that the Caps have been doing this. I mean, Ovi's been in the league, 12, 13 years? I mean, they've been pretty much, setting up on the power play and the 6-on-5, the same structure. So you have to switch up every now and again because eventually teams are going to catch up. They know Ovi's going to get it from the left wing, and goalies know he's going to shoot it, but his shot is so deadly that, yeah, he's still going to get through. But now you got more folks blocking shots, being more aggressive, coming out. Goalies are taking the angles away, and it's making it a little bit more difficult for him, even though he's a sniper. But he's still going to get his due. But in this game, it was frustrating to see them come back to tie the game and to lose it a minute later because I went to, go handle something at work, came back before I could even look at the TV, and I saw Montreal celebrating. I was like, damn. Well, at least they got a point. That's the way I try to look at it. At least they got a point. At that point, they had tied Pittsburgh for the Metro lead again. So I looked at it as a good sign in that aspect. And with him getting, $6.99, hoping that 700 would come and the team could have the focus on just playing good hockey, getting the number 1 seed in the Metro, and going forward for the playoff push. But it was a good game. He got his $6.99. They got a point. And then we go to really, in my opinion, this was the upset of the week with the New Jersey game. So let's go ahead and break that one down.
Yeah, I agree with you. This was a very frustrating game. So Saturday's matinee game was against the Devils. The Devils' only goal in the first, they scored the only goal in the first. And the second period, the Devils score again, but Wilson gets his 19th with a power play goal at 14:44, assisted by Carlson and Backstrom. Third period, Alex Ovechkin, here we go, scores his 42nd of the season and his 700th career goal, assisted by Kuzi and Jensen. And I will say at this point, I have to say hats off to the Devils fans for the standing ovation. I don't think there was anyone that wasn't applauding this milestone for an outstanding hockey player, regardless if he's on your team or not. So I thought that was very cool of them. And people have said if it was in Pittsburgh, what would they have done? I don't care. Jersey, I was okay with it. But unfortunately, the Caps fell flat, and the Devils scored at 18:01, and it was a 3-2 loss. So I agree. To me, it was, that first game against Vegas, it's like, bummer. Okay, come on now. And in Montreal, it was a little bit of like, hey, what's going on? But this one, they really, truly just looked off to me. I don't know what, like missed passes and overshots and just not in it 100%. Definitely, there was no 60 minutes of hockey on this one. And I I felt bad that Alex Ovechkin didn't have, they could have had the win also, because it would have been fantastic for him to have, the interviews be, hey, your 700th goal,
and you guys won, and you're leading the division, but except there was, kind of this terrible balance of, hey, you're 700 goal, but you guys lost to the Devils, and now you're tied with, with Pittsburgh playing them in less than 24 hours. So this game was very, very disappointing for me.
Yeah, Carol, give your thoughts real quick, and then I'll give mine.
That pretty much sums it up. It was good for them to get in 700. They were 1 for 6 on the power play, so that explains a lot to this ending of the game. They had opportunities to win this game, to get a healthy lead like they have in the previous games that they beat New Jersey, and unfortunately it just didn't come together. But the fact that he got his 700th, me and Robbie were talking about it, that we felt like this would definitely, definitely that the Pittsburgh game, even though it was a crazy 1 o'clock start on Saturday and then turn around and have a 12 o'clock start on Sunday, which I don't understand because I've never seen any other hockey team have to do that. But the fact that they were, ready for the challenge the next game and got the monkey off their back, so to speak, with Alex getting his 700th, I think it was a perfect setup for the next game against Pittsburgh. What do you think, Robbie?
Yeah, I do too. It's interesting for me. I'm happy at least they put Pittsburgh in the same situation where Pittsburgh had a home game and then had to come on the road. So that's maybe even a little harder, right? Or maybe easier because you can put the concentration away. But at least it's about even. So it's not like Pittsburgh had extra rest or something like that. So I was happy about that. And I think that maybe if we had beaten New Jersey, would have been a little more complacent. I definitely think the losing streak made us fight a little bit harder from the beginning, which, sometimes at these doldrums, I was talking to Janaea when we were doing our post-game podcast on Sunday, that, there's these doldrums. There's these, these seasons are very long, and there's times where it's just hard to get the motivation to play a full 60 minutes of hockey. And you got to hope that they will, but over an 82-game season, there's going to be ebbs and flows. That's why when I talked about on Power Play Point podcast, a few months back with you guys, I was like, they need to bank the points. We can't be like, oh, they're peaking too soon. Like, there's always going to be a downturn. No team wins the whole season, So, like, it's how you ride the highs and lows, and you try to get better for the final stretch. So, I'm hoping, we'll talk about the trade acquisitions in a minute. I'm hoping that some of those, make a big difference down the stretch, and we got those spots. But I mean, we had so many power play opportunities. I just feel like we weren't shooting the puck enough, and then we finally got sort of into it a little bit in the third with the Ovechkin goal. But then obviously, which I thought was going to carry momentum again. I thought to tie it 2-2. We got this. We just got to get one more goal, and I just not expect the one more goal to come from New Jersey and to lose in regulation. I want to give one quick shout out to a good friend of mine, Phil. Philip Gooden. He always says that he's got this lucky Ovechkin jersey, and Ovechkin scores every time he goes to a game and he wears it. And he only gets to go to a couple of games every year. And I'm like, yeah, this streak is going to end at some time. So he said that he would buy tickets, go to New Jersey, and make sure that he gets 700. And he made this call over a week ago. And I was like, yeah, sure. You got to hope that he doesn't get it before or after and all these things. He wore his lucky jersey. He brought his girlfriend. And for the 10th game in a row, he's seen an Ovechkin goal. And he had 2 hat tricks.
That's awesome.
And 2 hat tricks in there. So that's a
holy shit.
I know. So I'm like, yeah, thank you for going to that game and getting that monkey off our back. So it sucks that you had to see a loss. But he didn't claim he was going to go to a win. He just claimed he was getting 700. So I guess he was true. Maybe we should have wished a little harder for the win part of it. But shout out to him for staying true to it and going to a road game in New Jersey. So, and there was a lot of Caps fans there, I think. But I did think it was very classy, to your point. I do hope that if they had been in Pittsburgh, that they would have been classy enough to clap and understand that only 8 players have ever done this. It's not necessarily a Capitals.
Hold on, come on.
You don't think so?
Robbie, come on. We're talking about Pittsburgh. We're talking about the city the state where Philadelphia is at, where they throw snowballs at Santa Claus.
Oh, yeah.
If Ovi would have got...
Well, I know what it would have been like in Philadelphia. I agree, in Philadelphia they would have gotten moved.
All throughout it, because you got to remember, that's Mario land for one.
Yeah.
And anybody that's including on him, they're not going to like. Second of all, it's the Capitals. Second of all, it's Ovi, and third of all, it's the Capitals. If he would have won, they probably would have all fouled out the stadium. If he would have got 700 there, they probably would have fouled out the stadium and disgust, they wouldn't have clapped enough, and then it just left the stadium.
It just left right then. Yeah. Well, that would have been interesting. Yeah, no, you're probably right. But I like to think that this was a big milestone for the sport, and it's kind of sad that it got overshadowed in a loss. You know, like I think it didn't even make SportsCenter's top 10, but I feel like if it was in a win, it would have. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
I agree.
Where it mattered, on NHL Network where it mattered, they highlighted. I don't watch ESPN, Robbie. You don't even look at that. That's the MTV of sports now, man. Don't you? Turn on NHL Network and you get real hockey coverage, man. They don't cover hockey.
No, I know they don't cover hockey, but I was thinking that it's such a big milestone that maybe, just maybe, it would be covered in the top 10. I mean, even 10. I mean, come on. This is like only happened 8 times. But, so be it. And they actually have hockey on their ESPN Plus now, so I thought that they would want to cover it for that reason alone. But I think they were just kind of mad because NBC was milking it, and they got to put on so many more games and get increased ratings during this run up to it. So I'm sure NBC's kind of almost unhappy that it's over because they were getting a lot of televised games with the Caps, to try to do it. But I'm happy it's off our back, and we can move on. And I think that getting that off our back and being mad at the losing streak leads us to the next game. So let's break down the game that we've wanted to talk about the whole entire time. Anna, what was the scoring like in the Penguins game on Sunday?
All right. So, yes, this was the highlight of my week for sure. So, yesterday the Caps played the Pens. Opening the scoring was Jacob Bronnett, who had, a little bit of a dry spell going on there for a while, and I was never worried. But I definitely saw Jacob Bronnett miss a couple of goals, and then he gets that determination look in his face, and you know he's going to come out. And not only did he come out, but he scored at 6-12 unassisted. It was absolutely fantastic, and what a great momentum for the players to start off, because it looks like the Capitals have been sort of struggling with scoring first, or actually scoring in the first period in a lot of the more recent games. And then so that was the only goal in the first period. And then the Pens scored 2 times in the second, making it 2-1. And then we have Wilson scoring his 20th at 1:16 into the third, followed by Hagelin about 3 minutes later. We have, Pitt scoring at 8:50. I'm not even going to say who it was by. But TJ Oshie gets his 25th unassisted at 10:40 to give the Caps a 4-3 lead. And to close out this fantastic win, Hag scores again against his old team with an empty netter at 5-3. This game, to me, this is the Capitals game. This is 60 minutes. This was chemistry. They looked like they were having a good time. The penalties weren't, hey, we had Dylan out there giving a beating to Malkin, which, I'm going to love to watch. And that was what I needed to see from number 4. So that was awesome. But, can we just talk about Sidney Crosby's tantrum?
Definitely.
Here's a guy that, has all these amazing numbers, and he's their captain. He's this and he's that, and here he is on the bench. Literally just being a bitch. And then, breaks it over, the stick over his kneecap, or whatever. He didn't know that people were going to turn that into, 1,000 different memes and, loop it on social media. Well, to me, it's at that point, I couldn't even have any respect for him, because really that's how you're going to behave. How disappointing. But back to the Capitals, this to me was a fantastic game of, they looked on it, and I really, really hope we carry this playing the Jets tomorrow, and then of course go into the Peg and playing them again on Thursday.
Yeah, for sure. Carol, I'll let you get the first crack at the Penguins, and then I'll give my take.
Oh boy, this was a hell of a game. One, because it was on NBC, and I had to listen to these guys suck on the balls of Sidney Crosby and the Penguins the whole game, and it was lovely the way the game ended, because the Caps had a great game plan. The game plan is always to be physical. In the first period, they had 21 hits alone, and they had a 1-0 lead. Pittsburgh, they've been playing some good hockey. They got 2 goals in 27 seconds in the second period, which gave them the 2-1 lead. But we know what this Caps team can do when they're determined, and they know what's what. Like I said, I believe that getting that 700 goal, getting that historic stuff out the way, the team had a focus, and they came out there, they had a game plan, and they executed. And if you listen to the commentators, and they was all, talking about how Pittsburgh was doing this and Pittsburgh was doing that, but they had a 2-1 lead. And the Caps were being physical and playing their game. They didn't deviate. Hobie played well. The 2 goals he gave up, you can't get mad at him. Holquist, he got that one. Gudis was cruising through the crease. I don't know why he was just doing a drive-by, but Holquist, that's what he does. He scores in front of the net. And then a goal by, Crybaby Crosby, it was the same thing that happened with the other goal that went off for TJ Oshie. That's why I feel like it was fitting that TJ got the game-winning goal, because he ain't been playing a good game. And I think the new rivalry is Oshie and Crosby, going back to the game last time they played at 12 o'clock when him and Crosby got into it. I can see Oshie, he's been keying in on Crosby a lot when they're on the ice at the same time. And he's been making sure he's been finishing his checks and everything. So that tantrum that Crosby got, I think it was because Oshie scored. I think that's what burned them up even more. I think them two are starting to have a hatred amongst themselves, which I love, because Ovi punish Crosby if they ever went head up, which we know they won't do, because they know the top line of the Capitals will outwork the top line, the so-called Crosby line of the Penguins. And just for the game of them scoring 4 goals in the third period, that just shows the versatility and the depth of this team. Tom Wilson getting the 4-on-4 goal, getting his 20th for the second year in a row. The guy that's been the so-called goon that's been suspended, folks saying he didn't belong in the league, he's just a bully, he's just this and that. The man has scored 20 goals twice in his young career. So get off his back, let that man continue to play, and continue to fear him and try to make excuses for the reason why he plays as well as he does. And Hagelin, I know it felt good for him to get 2 goals against his old team. Those goals were key. The empty netter, was what it was. Backstrom with an unselfish play, getting him the puck on the empty net. But that one that he got in front of the goal, just being tenacious, going in there. He's a small guy, but you go in front of the net, you're going to get pounded. But he went in there fearless, did what he had to do, and got the goal. And then I got to finish up with the Dylan Malkin situation. We've seen over and over again when the referee gets in the middle and the other team's player gets the advantage against our player because the ref is holding our guy and they getting free shots. So it was beautiful to see finally it turned out that karma bit somebody in the ass, because Malkin was throwing punches when the ref was holding Dylan, but Dylan had enough, smarts to keep on throwing punches, and the ref was like, I'm going to get the hell out the way. Malkin thought he was safe, but Dylan was like, nah, buddy. And he caught him with some nice clean ones, and I was sitting there. I enjoyed that the best. So, Anna, I definitely agree. I watched that video footage a couple of times. I even put it in the video clip that I did for the commercial for the show. Normally, I just put the scoring, but I put Malkin getting his ass kicked in there just for fun because it was beautiful to watch. Caps 5-3, take back over the lead of the Metro, and I believe they're going to get things together, get on cruise control like we saw them do once before, and they're going to do as I predicted and win 2 out of 3 Stanley Cups, goddammit.
Yeah, right.
Bobby, what is your take?
Yeah, well, for time, I'm going to go short, but if you want to hear my full take on it, you can go to SportsOTHP.com, because I did like a 40-minute podcast with Janaea just on pretty much this game, OV at 700 and a couple other topics, but I loved this game. I loved the grittiness of Hagelin. I thought that was fantastic. I loved that players like Eller and Hagelin and multiple bodies were going hard to the paint, just whacking at it, trying to take space away. Then another person whacks at it. I mean, a lot of these goals were actually very reminiscent of each other, and that's how you're going to have to beat teams in the playoffs. So I was really excited to see the grit factor. I thought TJ Oshie was gritty. I thought Hagelin was gritty. Everybody was getting down in the weeds. I loved the amount of hitting we could do. Janae and I talked about how we now have 5 of the top 20 hitters in the NHL on our team. So assuming, speed works, but if you're beaten up a lot in the corners, your speed starts to diminish over time. So I think a physical brand of hockey is what got us there in 2018. So I'm happy to see a little bit of that return, because maybe Dylan could be our Brooks Orpik for this run. We did lose a little bit of physicality when we lost Brooks before. Overall, fantastic game, and I hope that it goes forward. Let's just talk right now before we get in the upcoming week. The trade deadline, since it was today. We just talked about Dylan. We all seem to like his fighting and hitting ability. There's a big question mark about Kovalchuk, right? So some people love the move, some people hate the move. I know Gil doesn't like the move, but I know you guys didn't get to talk about it because, as per usual, as it was after my little podcast with Janaea as well, of course the news breaks just as it ends. And it's funny because it was after Steve Dangle recorded his podcast. So they always break the news right after all the podcasters are done, it seems. But Anna, since this is your first take on it, what are your thoughts on it?
Oh, I think it's a fantastic move. I have to be honest. Like, at first, we recorded yesterday, and we had Christian Levesque on, and then shortly after, he sent an email or a text saying, like, hey, we've got this Kobe, and I think this is a good thing. And Gil is pretty negative from the beginning, and I don't know, I had to, at first I was like, what? Like, for real? And then I started to think about it, and I thought, you know what? Imagine if you, and Chris Levesque said this, and I 100% agree, if you have a Hagelin, Eller, Kobe line, that's a hell of a line. I mean, he's a vet player, and he has relationships with the players already, some of the Russian players already. Why not? I mean, honestly, nobody saw this coming. This is why Brian McClellan, we're always sort of like, what's he going to do? He makes smart moves. And I think that this was, Dylan, fantastic. I think he's going to be awesome. And the simple fact that his first game, he was paired up with John Carlson tells you, all right, we've got faith in you and shows what you can do. This is it. We're not joking around. I think this is going to be a really fantastic move for the Capitals.
Yeah. So my quick thoughts on this, just because I'm curious how willing he is to switch sides, right? He's a natural left wing, right? But we're really strong in the left wing side. So to do what you just talked about, he'd have to switch wings, or Hagelin would have to switch wings, which actually maybe that might be the smart thing, to move Hagelin onto the right side and let Kovalchuk play his natural left side. It'll be interesting to see if they could work together, because those are two similar players, Hagelin and Kovalchuk. Or do you move one of them into the fourth line, which creates a lot of mismatches for other teams? There's a lot of options that could happen. I joked around that what happens if you put him, he ends up being great and he switches to the right wing, and you put him with Kuzi and Ovi, and you have an all-Russian, basically a team that they play together on the Russian national team, so they know each other pretty well. That would be pretty incredible. And I saw some jokes online that we just need to call up our young Russian defensive player that we have in the minors, so that way we could have all 5 positions and the goalie all at once be able to speak Russian. That would be something. But people took that seriously. I was just kidding about that. But it's pretty interesting to think about how the Russian takeover is upon us. And clearly, all these people are poo-pooing this initially, but I'm like, this had to go through the blessing of Ovechkin. Yes, this is a surprise to all of us. 100%. But there's no way that they go out and get Ovi's best friend, without talking to Ovi first. It just doesn't, that would be ridiculous. And so
especially because you're looking at it hey, he's 30...
36? Yeah, 36 or 37, yeah.
That's considering that there's other players out there who are super hot and they're 18, but we're looking at the point where we want we want the knowledge, we want the skill, we want the maturity, the leadership, whatever. Okay, and to me, there isn't going to be a competition. I think it's not going to be a competition with him going against Ovechkin or Kuzi or Oshie or anybody else. I feel like it's going to be an absolute mutual respect. And not that we didn't have respect before in the players, but I think this is going to be a driven respect. And I think that, why not? I mean, I think it was 100%. I think it was a smart move, and I totally agreed with this. I was like, yep, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and just to have another Russian to mentor Kuzi could be helpful, towards his future progression. Yeah. So I think.
I mean, if anybody has an issue with this move, you're talking about, he's 36, but he's in great shape. He's still one of the best scorers in the league. You know, you can look at his time with LA the year before. They don't fit his style. They have a physical game. They don't score a lot, and they have a more of a forecheck-oriented game. He was in Montreal putting up great numbers this year. The fact that they've taken half his contract, and they only had to give up a third-round pick for a player of this caliber and of his talent, and to be able to put him on the third line. I mean, if any person has an issue with this move, they need to eat a bag of baby dicks. That's basically all I got to say, because it's really getting irritating how these fans, me and Robbie, we talked about it earlier. Capitals fans are getting like Redskins fans, which I don't understand because the team has just up 2 years ago. So for all the fans, that's why I don't go into these chat groups. For one, I'm restricted right now, me and Facebook. Fuck Zuckerberg, first of all. I don't go into these groups because these fans, they're not happy about anything. They just want to cut. They've been number one in the league for most of the year. They're number 3 right now, and they still have reason to complain. Trade this person, trade that person, fire Reardon, do this and that. If you knew what you were talking about and you knew how to run a hockey team, you wouldn't be flipping burgers at McDonald's and Wendy's, and Reardon and McPhee and McClellan wouldn't be doing what they're doing. So if you got an issue with this, I got 2 things for you. Sit here, take it, and shut up, or go join another team and be a fan base. Because if you upset and miserable about what's going on with this team right now, you don't know hockey and your brain dead. And that's all I got to say about that.
No, I agree. And $74,000 is the prorated salary. That's next to nothing. And for how close we were to our cap space, getting an extra forward, adding forward depth, but we didn't need to subtract a player. In fact, the only other move that we did today was, unfortunately, we sent Christian Juice to the Ducks, which is for Daniel Sprong, which, so it's basically like a minor league deal, but we get a little bit of depth in the minor leagues, and that's fine. And what's also great about this Kovalchuk thing is he's on a 2-way contract. So if he ends up not working out for us, we can put him in the Bears for even cheaper. It's not like it's a huge risk. People are like, oh, but it's a pick. But I'm like, yeah, but the Bears are stacked right now. Like, yes, you don't want to just throw away picks, but if there's a chance that this could be the last piece we need for a cup this year, you got to take a 3rd-round pick to take that shot. I mean, it's, to me, that's,
absolutely,
it's the only way to do it.
You're
So,
smart.
yeah. Anyway, so we got 2 games at home and home against the Jets tomorrow at 7, Thursday at 8 o'clock, and then we play the Wild in Minnesota at Sunday at 8 o'clock. The Jets are the team looking just on the outside of the 2 wildcard spots on the West, so they desperately need points, so they'll be a difficult home and home, and especially on a relatively short period of time to go that sort of distance. Real quickly, Anna, what's your thoughts on the Jets?
Okay, well, I hate to bring up a personal matter, but because my mom is from Winnipeg and how I started enjoying hockey, I'm going to give her a little props on this one. She's like, hey, so we're playing each other tomorrow night. She was like, you guys will get a Caps win because there's so many injuries in Winnipeg right now, unfortunately. I don't think, unfortunately. She said, unfortunately. So she sees the Capitals winning. Even though they want to try their hardest, it's just not, I don't know if it's in the cards right now because of the injuries. So we'll have to see. But then again, even if the Capitals knew that, it's not a reason for them to not come out and play like how they played against Pittsburgh. They cannot go out and play like, where it's like, oh, it's the Devils, we've got this. Oh, it's the Canadians, we've got this. No, we got to go out 60 minutes. No joke. That 700, weight has been lifted with the goals with Ovi. And bring it on. I don't know what they're going to do with the goaltenders. I kind of feel like we don't need to give up on Sammy. So he lost the game. It's like, all right, we were all in his corner. He loses a game or 2, and everyone's like, oh, now it's all about Hopi. It's like, come on. Not okay. So support your goalie, 60 minutes of hockey, and if they're going to play the Jets here at home and they're going to win, they sure as hell can take it to the peg and win there too.
Yeah,
regardless if my mom and I will not talk for a couple of days afterwards.
right. I think that they. I don't know. It's a tough one. I definitely want them to get Sam into one of these games, but I thought Holtby played a hell of a game. Carol, do you go back to Holtby again, even though he's been in like 6 out of the last 7 games? Do you give Sam a shot at home? Do you do it on the road against the Jets or the Wild? How do you deal with this?
I'd say you give Sammy one of them because we're about to get to the stretch where Hope he's going to be getting most of the work, and you want to keep Samson off a little, keep him loose, keep him active. So at least hopefully they give him at least one of those games of the back-to-back against Winnipeg. Yeah, to me it makes sense because you only got 21 games left in the season, 20 games left in the season for the Caps. So you definitely want to make sure you get Samson off some work, but you want to get Hope, you make sure he's ready for that push for the end of the season in that playoff run.
Yeah, do you think you should do it at home, which is the first game, or on the road in the second game if it was your choice?
I think I'd do Samson off on the road just to see how it would go. Winnipeg has that fast ice. They have the last change in that. Just to see how he would do with that change of pace and, having to deal with them having the last line change. Just in case Hope he doesn't round in the form and we might need the backup goalie for a little stretch like we did in 2018 when Grubauer had to, start for a few games for Hope to get his head back in the game and get locked in for the playoffs on that historic run that the Caps made.
I agree with you, actually. And also, Sam's done pretty well on the road this year. I think he won 7 or 8 in a row on the road. So, let's give him the road shot. So I say go back to Holtby. Give Sam the nod 2 days later. Give Holtby a little rest, to go from Tuesday all the way back to Sunday, and then give him that game against the Wild. I think that we've gone over on our time. It's already 7:47. Maybe we may take a couple minutes on the other side of the 8 o'clock break. No, it was a great hockey talk, and we wanted to talk about a lot of things.
In the Wizards, because all we got is the XFL and a little bit of boxing, so we can go a little bit long on the Wizards talk if y'all want to break it down a little bit past 8.
Cool. Sounds great. All right. Well, Anna, if anyone wants to check out all the latest episodes of Power Play Point Podcast, you go to SportsOTHP.com. Click the Power Play Point Podcast button. You can hear all the latest from you and Gil, and I'm excited to hear Chris's thoughts as well. I'm not sure if it's live right now, but I know that he usually tries to put it up on Monday, so it should be up there soon if it's not. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, no. Thank you, guys. I'm sorry. Again, I was like, I need to stop talking.
You're good.
No, thanks again, and let's hope that next time we talk, it is... regardless if I'm talking to my mother or not, let's hope we take out those Winnipeg Jets.
Sounds good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Bye.
All right.
Have a good night.
So we're going to switch gears real quickly back to our Wizards talk. I'm actually going to just get right into it, and I'll share it to some of the Wizards groups a little bit later. We've got a full roundtable here, so I'm just going to bring everybody in on the line, and then I'll introduce them one at a time just to save me a little bit of time.
Before you, Bobby, let me go ahead and end my feed right now, covering the Capitals. We were streaming live on Periscope, YouTube, and Facebook. I'll be back a little bit after 8 with XFL Defenders Talk and Boxing with Paul, the Boxing Guy, so y'all make sure y'all stay tuned in. And wrap it up with Robbie with the Wizards and NBA Roundtable, and I'll be back shortly.
Sounds good. Thank you, Carol. Yeah, we're going to continue live on our SportsOTHP Facebook page. I've brought in our entire roundtable. So we got, I'll just introduce them one at a time. The first person we're going to introduce is Arun, the birthday boy. I got to celebrate his birthday last week. And, in fact, this game that we're going to talk about was on his birthday. Arun, how are you doing tonight?
Not bad. I enjoyed the Caps beating the Penguins on Sunday, but not so much the Wizards the last 2 games.
Yeah, for sure. And I enjoyed going to the, we mentioned at the very top of the show, but it was fun to see you at the basketball game rooting on the correct team. I know that you went to Sandy Springs, so you rooted for both teams, and you got the girls to win in one school and the boys in the other one, and so we can still be friends. So that's good. And we also had Tim at that game. He was at the Cavaliers game itself, the one we're about to talk about, and he also joined us to the PVAC championship. How are you doing today, Tim?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm glad I got to see a win and some defense
this weekend. It wasn't in D.C., but glad my high school won the championship.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Brian, we're bringing Brian Brennan as well. How are you doing tonight?
Doing well, Robbie. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. And the last person, another big person of the show and also a big person on our network. We got DC's People's Champion, Ken. How are you doing today, Ken?
I'm good. I'm good. That's the best I can say is I'm good.
All right, good. Yeah, I know that we're going to have to, unfortunately, talk about a couple of losses. I know you were unhappy with some of the XFL action as well. We're not going to do the XFL Roundtable today, but I'll let you and your final thoughts give your thoughts on that as well. But let's just really quickly break down this Cavaliers game, and then we'll get into some of these other games the other game. There's only two to get into. There is a live game. I will mention that we are playing the Milwaukee Bucks right now. Milwaukee is, they just made a 3. So now they're up 44-33, taking an 11-point lead with 7:45 left in the first half. Some sloppy play. Wizards are having some trouble with ball handling, but Bradley is just shooting some crazy threes now, but got fouled. So it's an interesting play there. But let's get back into the Rune birthday game and the game that Tim went to. So Wizards came out strong, outscored them 41-32. It was looking really good. Cleveland came back in the second, outscored the Wizards 29-25. It's a pretty even third, 21-20. But unfortunately, Cleveland turned it on and outscored Washington 32-21 for a 113-108 victory. I have to say, I think I was really terrible luck for the Wizards. I watched none of the first 3 quarters and watched the fourth quarter with a Rune at a little birthday party after I was done with dinner with my family. It all kind of went south at the end there, but I want to first get Tim's take since I know he was there. Tim, what were some of your thoughts on this game?
It was just a very disappointing game all around. Never good when you lose both home games to the worst team in your conference. So it's a bummer to not at least win one of those two, especially because the Wizards were actually up by as much as 16 in the second quarter. And I think they started to coast a little bit, and the fans and I felt like we had the game in hand, and they actually took out Kevin Love and a lot of their stars like Drummond in about the middle of the second quarter and put in some scrubs. But the problem with that is they were some hungry scrubs, and they outplayed the Wizards, who just couldn't get out of their own way on defense. And then obviously the second half just kind of snowballed at the end. But on a positive note, it was actually a surprisingly good crowd. I think just the fact that it was Friday and Cleveland actually gets a lot of fans into D.C. Helped out. So the environment was pretty good overall, but it didn't lead the Wizards to any success.
Yeah, for sure. I was looking at the stats here. I'm pulling them up on the screen. The fact that the Cavaliers had so many players in double figures. I think they had 7 players in double figures. And Kevin Love wasn't even one of them. He had 9 points. So that's not really good. So it seemed like they were able to spread out the scoring, and it was dangerous from all the different positions. So that was definitely frustrating, to say the least. But Arun, give me some of your thoughts on this game.
Yeah, overall, the Wizards, as Tim said, they let the Cavs kind of back into the game. They couldn't really knock down open shots. And after the first quarter, the Wizards only hit 6 shots out of the restricted lane, which basically means they only hit like 6 jumpers after the first quarter, which is pretty ridiculous, and that's probably not going to get it done. They were outscored 32-21. I guess the Cavs reserves, I wouldn't call them complete scrubs like Dante Exum, even though he was on the bench. He was like the number 5 pick overall a couple of years ago. He was traded for Jordan Clarkson. But I think, the Wizards, I think they thought they had the win in hand. The Cavs had just fired their head coach, so they probably were extra motivated. I don't recall a time where, usually after the coach is fired, they usually have all hands on deck and the players pretend to try hard for one game. Sometimes it continues, but it was just a bad loss for the Wizards, and whatever chances they have to make the playoffs, they have to make up probably with like a ridiculous win against like Milwaukee, but a loss to the Cavaliers isn't going to get it done.
For sure. I know that you wanted to get some thoughts off your chest, Champ, so I'll let you do that now.
A late great NFL coach said it best. God rest his soul, Denny Green. They are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook. This is the worst team in the East. You win to the fourth quarter up 6, and you lose by 5 to the worst team in the East. How do you do that? Easy. You let them off the hook. Period. You let them off the hook. I don't know what is wrong with this team. First part of the year, they showed so much fight. They would go up to some of the best teams in the league and punch them in the mouth, and then they play down to their opponents, and then they end up losing. And here's another situation where they played down to their opponents and they lost. They let the Cavs off the hook after they came in with a 2-game winning streak off a 9-day All-Star break layoff at home. You let them off the hook. Y'all were being really nice with it. I'm not going to be nice. This was absolutely embarrassing, in my opinion. This is so embarrassing. I almost want to turn in my fan card because this is ridiculous. Like, this is the worst team in your conference, and you let them come in and run y'all out the gym in one quarter. One quarter. Absolutely pathetic.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Brian, your take is sort of a Knicks outsider's point of view. What are some of your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I agree with everything everybody said, especially Champ. This is really embarrassing. If you want to have any chance of making the playoffs, you've got to win games like this against the worst team in the East. Just fired their coach. This is really, I think it is, I agree, it's an unacceptable loss for the Wizards to be coming off such a long layoff like that, and to be up by 16, like Tim said, in the second quarter is really bad. And, this is the worst loss of the Wizards season by far, and it could completely capsize their season. It's a terrible loss.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, let's get on to this next game, which didn't end up much better. So the next one's against the Chicago Bulls. The Wizards only were able to put up 31 to the 35 of the Bulls, so not much defense in the first quarter. Then the Bulls really put it on in the second. They outscored them 38 to 27 to take a pretty commanding halftime lead. It was pretty even in the third. Chicago scored 28, Wizards scored 27, and the Wizards tried to get back into it. And there was a lot of times where I thought they were gonna actually get it within to 6 points, 8 points, and they actually kept it a lot closer down the stretch than I thought they were going to. But in the end, ultimately they lost 126 to 117. I just thought that they, if they had put the effort they did in the fourth quarter into the rest of the game, they probably would have won this game, but they didn't, and so they lost. And it was particularly bad just shooting early on. Sort of shot themselves in the foot. The shooting definitely improved as time went on, but it wasn't a very good game. Arun, what are some of your thoughts on this one? Arun?
Yeah, sorry. I thought the Bulls' starting lineup was actually pretty bad. I actually think, with all their injuries, I would argue that they're worse than the Cavaliers in this one, and this loss was probably even more disappointing, particularly since the Wizards did come off a really bad loss, and there was no excuse for a long layover. Kobe White did have his second back-to-back 30-point game from North Carolina's rookie, but some of the guys in their lineup, like Daniel Gafford and Ryan Arcidiacono are starting for the Chicago Bulls with all their injuries. Bradley Beal had 53 points, but it was kind of one of those games where the rest of his teammates were standing around, not playing much defense in this one, and giving up 126 points to the Chicago Bulls is not really a pretty bad defensive effort overall. I think this followed the last time the Bulls and the Wizards played, except it was a role reversal where Zach LaVine had a huge game. This time Bradley Beal had a huge game, and his teammates maybe they didn't feel involved in the offense and they didn't want to play any defense. Thomas Bryant was particularly bad defensively, and even though Beal had 53 points, it was more like a hollow effort against. I would say this is the worst team in the East right now with all the injuries they have.
Yeah, real quickly, I thought Sadaransky played a really good game against us, which was disappointing. Zach Levine was also really, really good in this game, but also Kobe White, I mean, putting up 33 points. I mean, he was the difference maker. I mean, basically, it was a battle between Bradley Beal had to outscore two people, and he didn't. That becomes very difficult, and you just gave up way too many points early. I mean, the fact is, to give up over 35 points in each of the first two quarters puts yourself in a very difficult situation. I mean, you can't give up over 70 points in the first half and expect to win very many games. Just overall, I didn't think it was very good. I'm going to let Champ get his take, and then I'm going to move on and talk about these upcoming week, just because for time's sake.
So, I saw a stat on Facebook right before I came on here. Bradley Beal, there have been 8 games where Bradley Beal has scored 35 or more points in the game. The Wizards are 1-7 in those games. The one win they had was back on November 15th against the Minnesota Timberwolves, and he scored 44. 2 days after he scored 44 against Boston, he scored 63. Where 2 things. 1, why was he not an all-star? And 2, where was the rest of the team?
All right.
This team, the Bulls, they basically owned the game. From what I was listening to, I was watching and looking at this game. The Bulls basically owned this game for the most part. And coming off a loss against the worst team in the East, against a team that's missing extra deals for that last playoff spot, and this is the performance you give us, another bad loss.
Yeah, you were breaking up just a little bit there, and I think you may have us on the Bluetooth. But I got what you're saying, and I agree it's a bad loss. On the bright side, the Wizards just made an incredible run to cut it to 43-47. At least they're playing well in this game, playing against a number one team Bucks. But we've talked about this before, where they seem to play up to their competition or down to it, which is frustrating. So just real quickly, I'm going to talk about some of these upcoming games, and I'm going to give each one of you guys an upcoming game. I'm going to let Arun, what are some of your thoughts on this current Bucks and Wizards game?
Sorry, I didn't catch it. Which game?
The current game that we're watching right now, the Bucks-Wizards game.
The Milwaukee Bucks. This is like, if the Wizards make the playoffs, this is probably the team they'll play in the first round. They're not playing with Brook Lopez because of his twin brother, Robin Lopez. Overall, the Wizards are putting a good effort in this game. I think it just goes to show they're playing up to the competition. They need to put this kind of effort against, if they want to make the playoffs, they have to put this kind of effort against like the bad teams too, because I think they were clearly playing down to their competition the last 2 games. Because Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to be the MVP this year. They have the best record in the league, and the Wizards are surprisingly I think they're doing a reasonable job, given that the Bucks have a lot of talent. And they're the case where you don't have to tank to be great. Like, I believe they don't even have a guy other than Brook Lopez is the number 10 pick. I don't believe they have a single guy in like the lottery in their starting lineup. So it's overall a different approach to build a team. So if that's the path the Wizards want to go forward and try to make the playoffs, that could work. But we'll see. Maybe it's better to get the top draft pick for Washington.
For sure. Yeah, so the Wizards were outscored by 5 in the first quarter, but they've outscored the Bucks here in this second quarter. And in fact, they were able to just get the ball back. Chris Middleton's been playing well, but he made a mistake on that play. And I think that was what happened, right? Yeah, it was a drive. I think it deflected off of somebody. Yeah, that's what happened. He was stepped out of bounds. So it'll be interesting. We're trying for a 3 right here, and we miss. But some better play by the Wizards. Some decent defense, but unfortunately they get a dunk. So now it's 49-43 Milwaukee. So I'll keep the live scoreboard up on the display while we cover some of these upcoming games. I'm going to give Brian the next game, Nets at Wizards. I know that the Knicks play in the same division with them, so he knows them pretty well since they share the same city. That game's on Wednesday at 7. Brian, what are some of your thoughts on the Nets coming to town?
Yeah, the Nets just lost Kyrie Irving for the season. He only played a few games, and really, even though they're the 7th seed, they do have some talented players like Spencer Dinwiddie, who is really a good player, really an excellent player. I really am a big Spencer Dinwiddie fan. And even though they've got players like him, it's all about next year for the Nets. But as a whole, I would still say the Nets are a better team than the Wizards. And I believe the Nets, I think the Wizards won the last time they played in D.C., if I'm not mistaken. So I think it will be a close game, but I think I'm going to go with the Nets in this one.
Right, all right. I'm going to give the next game to Champ. The Wizards go to the Jazz on Friday. It's a 9 o'clock game. What are your thoughts on the Jazz?
To piggyback off of Brian, yes, the Nets lost to the Wizards in D.C. on February 1st, 113-107. That's number one. Number two, this is going to be the one game that's going to set the tone for this West Coast trip that they're getting ready to go on. They're going against the 5th best team in the Western Conference in the Jazz. They have to go into Utah and have a great game, whether they win or lose. They have to go in there and set the tone for this West Coast trip because the other 3 games on this trip are against winnable teams. If they cannot beat the Jazz, that's going to be a bad West Coast game. And it starts with Utah, period.
Right. All right, Tim, just for time, we're going to give you the last game. We're going to the Warriors on Sunday. It's an 8:30 p.m. game. It's the first day of March. What are your thoughts on going to the Warriors?
Well, it's the first day of March, and it's also likely the first day that Steph Curry's going to play this season because some news from today, he's targeting a return on Sunday. So I would say that's definitely a winnable game for the Wizards against the last-place team in the West. But if we were playing there and Steph Curry's back, I would definitely take the Warriors in that game. And honestly, even if he doesn't play, I don't know if we match up well against them because they beat us pretty bad recently in D.C. Without anybody really. Like I think all their stars were hurt that game. So I think it's going to be a tough one. It's winnable, but I would bet against the Wizards.
Right. Well, the Wizards just went on a nice little run to cut it to 47-49, but Milwaukee came back down and scored a basket. There's about a minute 24 left in the first half here. The Wizards are driving, and it's a blocking foul, right? Yeah. Oh, he's in the restricted zone. Did they call a charge? Really? I don't know about that. Anyway, so let's see if he's in the restricted zone or not. So it's a move by Bradley Beal. Oh, he's on the outside of it. I stand corrected. That's the right call. It's a charge. He may have been moving just a little bit, but it's probably the right call. So, yeah, minute 17 left. Milwaukee has the ball. We're just going to stay here for just the last minute of the half. But they're sort of in their half-set offense, and then they're driving in, and they lay it in and score. So it's 53-47, and the Wizards are bringing the ball up, and there's about a minute left, 15 seconds left on the shot clock. There's a foul called away from the ball. I think that they're over the limit, right? So it should, or maybe not. I thought so too, but are they lining up? Oh yeah, they are. Okay, it's just at first the way that they were lining up, I didn't think they were going to. So I think they're shooting free throws now. So let's see. So it's Mahimi to the line, right? Yeah. So let's see. Oh, he misses the first one badly. So it's still 47-53, but it'll be an interesting week for the Wizards. Hopefully they're able to find a way to get some wins here. While Mahimi tries for this next free throw, oh, he missed both badly. So Ken, real quickly, I just want your quick thoughts on the XFL and anything you have coming up on the No Spots podcast before we let you go.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't really have much to say on the Defenders. I mean, their name is the Defenders, and they play zero defense on Sunday. I mean, what else can you say? I'm pretty sure the Carol's got plenty to say about that coming up. I'm not going to steal my man's thunder, but you can't have games like you had in LA if they keep going to win the XFL championship. That offense looked like they were lost. The defense looked like they just didn't know what they were doing. It was just an all-around bad game. It was the first bad game they had this year. Granted, it's only game 3, but this is the worst we've seen this team play in the first 3 games of the season, and hopefully they don't duplicate that going forward. That's all I got to say about that.
Yep.
And coming up this Friday on the Spot Podcast, we will be talking about WWE Super Showdown as they head to Saudi Arabia again. After they were there back on Halloween, they're back there again this Thursday. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Impact Sacrifice, the week that was in wrestling, and all that good stuff that's coming Friday on the No Spot Podcast, 10 p.m. right here on the TruRadio Network.
Well, thank you so much, Ken. On that note, we'll let you go. But the Wizards, unfortunately, did not play well there down the stretch. I'll break into that in a second. But we're going to let Ken go. I'm going to try to get some other goodbyes real quickly. The next person we're going to let go is Brian Brennan. Any final thoughts that you have?
Yeah, I just want to say the Kobe Memorial today was really beautiful. I loved the speech by his wife. It really moved me. It was really touching. And I thought the speech by Michael Jordan was funny and also really beautiful as well. Jimmy Kimmel, everybody made really great speeches. It was really a lovely ceremony, and I'm glad I got to see some of it today. So it's still shocking to me that he's dead, but it was really a moving ceremony today.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was a beautiful ceremony. I got to listen to it a little bit while I was working today, but it was very emotional. It was hard to listen to it, and obviously work, but I thought they did a beautiful job. I still have a little bit of the speeches left to go. I didn't get through the whole thing, but I agree it was beautiful, and those are nice words, and I can't believe it either. But thank you so much. We'll have you on next week, Brian, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Tim, any final thoughts that you've got before we let you go?
Well, I'm sure you already shouted out McLean, so just wanted to reiterate, it was a great doubleheader championship game between the two schools. I just got an email today from McLean with some pictures showing the team with their in their celebration mode, so that was probably the best game that I watched all weekend. Caps is obviously up there, but just to see that game live and see the kids excited, it was a lot of fun, and glad you invited everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. I enjoyed going with you, and that email I actually made, so that's I'm happy that you got it.
Nice. Shout out to you then.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so it worked out well, and shout out to the Washington Post and Capitol Hoops for doing some stories on us and giving some love to the PVAC. So thank you for that, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, thanks guys. Talk to you later.
All right, the last person is a person who is a fan of Sandy Spring Friends School, but I appreciate that he came over to the quote-unquote dark side. I want to give you another happy birthday shout-out. I enjoyed spending your birthday with you. I wish the Wizards would have won for you, but Arun, any final thoughts before I let you go?
Yeah, I guess as a former alumni of McLean and Sandy Spring, I wasn't really sure who to root for in either of those games. So I'm glad each of the schools got one championship, and I'll count these championships as part of my DC run-up championship and Nova championships, I guess. Certainly Sandy Spring has lost in the finals 3 years in a row, according to the assistant coach, Jeff Limsharp, that I talked to, which was pretty interesting. But I'm glad McLean was able to pull through. I felt like they were the better team throughout the game, so I'm glad that they won in that sense. And thanks for showing up for my birthday, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll have you back on next week. Thanks for being a part of the roundtable. And all right. So I'll just give my one last little shout out. I know that Brian also gave a quick shout out to him. I went and pulled over my Kobe Bryant jersey. So one more final shout out to Kobe. It was a beautiful ceremony. And so rest in peace to him and his daughter and all the people that perished on that flight. I know we did a special on it a couple weeks back, but obviously it still sings, and it was still interesting to hear Michael Jordan, my favorite basketball player of all time, talk about my second favorite player and how he thought of him as a little brother, and he started to cry, and he made a joke about Jordan crying memes, which got the whole place laughing again, which I thought was pretty funny. But I thought it was really well done, and shout out to everybody that was involved with that memorial service today. And with that, We will. It's halftime. The Bucks are now up 57-47. They made a big run there to close out that second quarter. Hopefully, the Wizards will do well going forward. But that's all we got for our basketball talk for today. So I'll let Carol take back over, and I'll end this podcast there, or this Facebook Live.